It's one of the most often asked questions I receive. Can I walk into a listing appointment as an inexperienced agent, haven't been in the real estate business very long, and truly beat out top producing, well-known agents in my market? And the answer is absolutely. And I'm going to show you how right now. Hi, it's Stuart Sutton, of course. Hope you're having a great day. I'm the guy who wrote the Niche Marketing Blueprint, the book that'll take you step by step through how to quit working weekends, and I mean that, how to spend more time with your family, that's your ultimate goal, make any amount of money you want to make, despite the market condition and despite your experience level. And that is absolutely true. The book of that cover says exactly what it means. And the question I get, as I mentioned in the intro, more often than any other is, really, regardless of my experience, I've been in the business less than a year and I can go take listings from top agents? Positively, yes. You absolutely can. Well, I've been in the business 15 years, but I've never worked this particular niche before. I can take listings from top agents? Absolutely. The answer is really, absolutely, positively, unquestionably, definitively, categorically, yes. I would have added more synonyms, but I wanted them to be easy to read on this page. So there are lots of synonyms that tell you, yes, you can. So let's talk about why. Why can you walk into a listing appointment and walk out with a signed listing competing with top agents? Well, there's something called expertise, and expertise is revered by the consumer, by people in all walks of life. You've experienced it. I've experienced it. I'm going to share a couple of things with you about it. But the bottom line is that expertise trumps age. It trumps experience level, even fame. Share one quick story with you. I was diagnosed with glaucoma at a relatively early age and have basically been battling keeping my eyesight stable and steady, and we've been very blessed that we've been able to do that. But there came a time after many years when we've been putting it off and using different eye drops and different protocols, had laser surgery, things like that, when I needed actual eye surgery. Now, I was actually referred to a glaucoma surgeon. And upon meeting the glaucoma surgeon, my wife and I were both struck at how young he was. Now, you've probably been in that same situation, maybe despite your age, but as you sort of mature a little bit, people tend to look younger. Well, my wife's comment was, this guy didn't look like he was much older than 20. However, once we started visiting with him and asking questions, he shared and explained details and things that we have never heard before. I remember sitting in that eye doctor chair. My wife was sitting in another chair just right over to the side where the little magazine rack is. So when you're in an eye doctor office, if your wife wants to join you, which mine does on major decisions, then they'll have another chair and a little sitting area within that eye doctor examining room, if you will. So she's sitting there, I'm sitting there, and we're kind of glancing at each other as we're asking him questions and discussing the surgery with him. And he's giving us options and details that we could not have imagined that he would have shared with us. Now, we had actually visited with another eye doctor, another surgeon, and the level of expertise was dramatically different. Now, that doesn't mean to say the other doctor wasn't an expert, but what he shared did not reflect the level of expertise that this one did. So we chose the very young looking eye surgeon who did a stellar job. Now, my wife tends to, well, take things to the next level. She started asking nurses and started asking other people within that industry, not just the medical industry, within the eye industry. And his reputation was absolutely stellar, just like he reflected when we met him in person. The nurses and other doctors just loved him and says he's one of the best of the best. His age didn't matter to us. The fact that he hadn't been doing surgery as long as some of the other eye doctors didn't matter to us. His expertise and the way he handled that interview was beyond all of our expectations. And that goes with a lot of different products and services as well. It does not have to be in the medical industry. I'll give you another quick summary. When my kids were younger, they needed special shoes because one of them had flat feet and Just buying regular tennis shoes didn't seem to work. His feet tended to hurt quite a bit. So my wife got a referral for a store, and when she went in, the individual that was helping her did not seem to be someone that would have much experience, much expertise. They weren't very old. But once they started explaining to her what my son needed and identifying and diagnosing exactly what the issues were, my wife was convinced the expertise was there. And she used that shoe store, that same shoe store and salesperson, the rest of my son's child's life. When he became an adult, of course, he went on and was on his own. But while he was living with us, she used that individual and that store. And that is a reflection of expertise. So what I'm saying is that expertise trumps everything. I've had agents, one of my favorite stories is one of my agents went into a listing appointment. It was explained to her that they were talking to other agents. One of them was one of the top, most famous household names. You see his billboards, his radio ads, everything. She walked out with a signed listing. She was less than 3 years in the business. He was, well, very well known, very experienced, a lot of longevity in the business, lots of marketing dollars thrown out there so his name would be known. But guess what she had in that particular situation? She had expertise. He was a generalist. Let's face it, he was a famous generalist, but he was still a generalist, whereas she was a specialist, an expert, and that's what they wanted and needed. So the question comes, hey, I'm not very experienced in real estate, I hadn't been in it very long, or maybe you have. As a matter of fact, I'll admit you have a little bit of advantage if you've been in the business a long time, but sometimes that's a disadvantage because you have ways of doing things, and you've got to adapt and consider what the process is with niche marketing and becoming an expert. So how do you gain expertise? Well, there are actually 4 different processes that you go through. They're not difficult, they're not overwhelming, but they do take a little time and effort. I'm going to just share 2 of those with you right now. I think you're going to see why these are so important. First, I call it product knowledge. Now, what is product knowledge? Have you ever been into a car dealership and met a salesperson who was extremely knowledgeable about the product? I have, and it's rather impressive compared to dealerships I've been in where they were just kind of generally knowledgeable, had kind of a general level, not a whole lot deeper than mine. And even to the point of sometimes where they've said, well, let me look at the manual to see how to work this. That's not quite as impressive as someone who understands and knows in and out how that vehicle works and the features that it has. There's really a pretty big difference there. And that goes with just about everything. What is the product in our industry? Well, it's the housing. You go out and you visually take a look at property. I've done that since I started in real estate, and the advantage it gives is enormous. So when I started my niche, I've told this story before, but when I started my niche, I still remember sitting at my desk, tapping on my computer and identifying a little over 300, I think it was 311 houses on the market in the area that I wanted to work, in the type of property that I wanted to work. So I thought about that, scribbled some math on a pad real quick. I could see all of those homes in about 2 to 2.5 months. Now, why would I want to do that? We could go on the computer, we could look at the pictures, we could see everything about the details and the sizes, but because I knew from experience that you couldn't get everything you needed from a set of pictures or even videos. So I started going out and previewing the property before it sold. And I did see all of those houses. Now, what's the advantage of that? Well, the advantage is real straightforward. When you know the product, it's very evident to the consumer. So you're sitting in a listing appointment and the seller says something like, well, we know that house over there and it sold for this. Well, you immediately can say, well, you know, I've seen that house. And you're right, it was absolutely lovely. But here's how it compares to yours. They don't have another agent they're meeting with, if they're meeting with another agent, that can actually tell them that. You're probably the only one. And that's huge. Now, what if a buyer calls you and says, hey, we're interested in this house and this is what we're looking for? You can respond with, well, you know, that's interesting because it does have that. There's another home that has that and this. Meets 2 more of your check boxes, for example. So knowing the product is an extraordinary advantage in supporting your claim as an expert and in building your confidence as an expert and in the consumer seeing you as an expert. And expertise, again, it's revered. There's absolutely no doubt about it. It's a sociological and psychological fact that consumers as a group treat experts differently and individuals treat experts differently. So let's look at one other area, and that is market knowledge. What is market knowledge? Well, market knowledge has to do with how does the market perform? And you're probably familiar with what's going on in your market, how long are homes staying on the market, what's the days on market. You're probably familiar with how many sales occur every month. You may be familiar with the list to sale ratio, where are homes selling compared to asking price. So what about in your niche? What about in your area of expertise? If an agent walks in with general market knowledge and tells the seller, well, it's taking this long to sell homes, and this is where they're selling compared to asking, and this is the amount of inventory. It's different when you walk in and say, well, you know, this type of property that you own performs differently than the overall market. The time on the market is this, not this. And the list to sale ratio average out at this, not this. And the inventory out there in this type of property is this, not this. Now you have a decided edge over any competition that you have because your expertise is evident from the product knowledge and from the market knowledge. Now you can actually even go deeper than that. We call it niche knowledge as far as that goes, and buyer knowledge. And I'll get into those in another video, but I'm going to give you a quick overview and a quick hint. Why do buyers want the type of property they have? For example, buyers have different motivations for wanting a home on acreage versus wanting a condo or a lakefront property or a home in a gated community. There's different motivations for that. So knowing the motivation of the buyers is very, very important. And as I said, we'll go over that in another video. And another one is what I call niche knowledge. For example, if you understand that condos are your expertise, how many gated communities, how many of them are secure? How do the homes in gated condo communities sell compared to the ones that aren't gated and secure? How do the ones sell that have pools, community pools, versus the ones that don't? I mean, there are just so many variables. And again, your level of expertise can and should be reflected in your marketing and your branding. But to build that expertise, it can be purposeful, it can be conscious, and you can build the expertise and the credibility so that you can walk in and take listings from anybody, no matter what their experience level, no matter how well known they are. If you have an expertise that the consumer wants and needs, you will be the winner of that listing. So you can become an expert no matter your level of experience. Once you are an expert, and it doesn't take long, you can compete with anyone. If you brand and market your expertise properly, they will call you. Sellers will call you to come talk to them about listing their homes. And if you want a little bit more idea about what it takes to get that niche up and ready and build that expertise, take a look at this video right here. It talks about time and effort to get your niche up and running, and it is so worth it. Take a look. Hope to see you there.